Hey there, Duelists! My name is Dusty, and today we're going to be taking a look at Pendulum Monsters. So Pendulum Monsters are special in a lot of different ways. So the biggest thing I kind of want to point out about Pendulum Monsters are these arrows kind of on the sides of their cards. And with those arrows is a number. So this essentially tells us what our pendulum scale would be. I'll get more into the pendulum scale here in a second, but essentially I could set these cards not only to my monster card zone as monster cards, I could also set them in my spell and trap card zone as a spell or a trap card, depending on what their pendulum effect is. So the pendulum effect is told by this little extra text box above our kind of bigger main text box. And so in that smaller text box, it tells us what their pendulum effect is, which means when they are in the spell and trap card zone, that effect can be activated or triggered depending on what the effect says, if it has an effect. So now let's go back and take a look about setting our pendulum scale. So one of these cards has a scale of 1, and one of these cards has a scale of 8. So for us to take one and set it in the far right of my spell and trap card zone, let's take the other one and set it in my far left of my spell and trap card zone, I've now essentially created my pendulum scale, and my scale ranges from 1 to 8. What that means is I can now pendulum summoning. So pendulum summoning allows me to summon as many monsters from my hand to my field in between the levels of 1 and 8. So if I have any monsters in my hand between the levels 1 and 8, I can then special summon them to the field thanks to my pendulum scale and through the effect of pendulum summoning. Now, when a pendulum monster is destroyed, it is then placed face up in my extra deck. I can then summon that card back to the field through pendulum summoning, as long as I still have a pendulum scale that matches that level that falls into. So those are pendulum monsters and pendulum summoning. Pendulum monsters have an extra effect that can be activated or triggered once they are in your spell and trap card zone as a pendulum. Their pendulum scale allows you to then summon monsters from your hand and face up in your extra deck to the field, as long as they fall in between the levels of that pendulum scale. So that is Pendulum Monsters and Pendulum Summoning. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.